Ms. Jasmine just told us not to.
Thank you, Cho, for that wonderful welcome music. And thank you to all of you, both new faces and old, for joining us for this year's UN Day celebration.
We will commence this assembly with the lighting of the oil lamp by our administration, chief guests, and student representatives. First, Phil Jocelyn, head of school. Atul Kashyap, chief guest and American ambassador. UNICEF representative in Sri Lanka, Ms. Una Macaulay. Eileen Niederman, secondary principal. Alo Lenk, Common Secretary General. And last but not least, Nathan Prasadam, SGA President.
Thank you very much. I now invite Mr. Jocelyn to the stage to introduce our chief guest.
Thank you all for coming today. It's a lovely day for us to try to celebrate our motto of unity and diversity. Pulling everybody together from around the world, we must have close to 40 different nationalities, different cultural backgrounds, all working together towards a common goal within the school, all focused on children. And for me, it's a lovely place to be working and enjoying, and I like this day in particular as a way of celebrating that very event of being an international school and what that means. I think that all of our students here will grow up with a feeling of we're all one. It doesn't matter where you're from, what you look like, what you bring with your background, we are all the same underneath things. And so it's been a pleasure to welcome you all here. Today, for our couple of important speakers today, I'd like to first introduce to you His Excellency Mr. Atul Kashyap. He's the ambassador for the United States to Sri Lanka and the Maldives. The position of U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka and the Maldives has existed since 1949. Sri Lanka-United States relations and the Maldives-United States relations have been friendly throughout the history of Sri Lanka and the history of the Maldives. The diplomatic mission representing the United States in both countries is located in Colombo. Ambassador Kashyap is a career diplomat. Those of you that know anything about that means a lot. He puts his career in serving our nation abroad. He's with the U.S. Department of State and has spent much of his career focusing on South Asia, including Sri Lanka. Most recently, he was Deputy Assistant Secretary of State in the Bureau of South and Central Asian Affairs in Washington, D.C., working closely with a strategic region of almost 1.7 billion people and over 2 trillion in economic output. His other overseas postings have been included work in the U.S. embassies in New Delhi, Rabat, and Conakry, Guinea. He spent his early years at the International School of Lusaka, Zambia, where he attended school with kids from 75 different countries. He is a recipient of several Department of State Individual Superior and Meritorious Awards, as well as a certificate of recognition from the Secretary of State, Colin Powell, for duties performed in the State Department Operations Center on September 11th, 2001, and thereafter. Originally from Charlottesville, Virginia, Ambassador Kishop has also lived in Nigeria, Lesotho, Afghanistan, Zambia, and Austria. He is a graduate of the University of Virginia, where he received his bachelor's and master's degrees. While there, he concentrated on economics, international relations, diplomacy, and religious studies, as well as French. He's married to Karen Young Kishop, over here on the sign, who also is a U.S. Foreign Service officer. They have 3 children and a son, all of which attend OSC. Ambassador Kishop has expressed great enthusiasm for his new posting in Sri Lanka. He had stated that having traveled to Sri Lanka many times in his career, every time he had been struck by the incredible natural beauty of this island and the tremendous hospitality and warmth of the people of Sri Lanka. Please join me in welcoming Ambassador Kishop. Thank you.
Head of School, Mr. Jocelyn, respected teachers of OSC, parents, and particularly all of the students, it's a delight and a great honor for me to be able to speak to you today. The folks at the embassy prepared a really nice speech for me. It's wonderful. It's actually really, really well done. And I'm not going to read it to you. Instead, I'm going to speak from the heart. Because coming here today on United Nations Day and being asked to speak to you is an enormous honor and privilege for me. It is a duty that gives me great joy and great happiness. I was here for the elementary school festivities earlier today, and it makes me remember all of the wonderful things that happened to me when I was a student, when I was a child, when I was your age, and I was living overseas, and I was growing up overseas, and I had friends from countries all around the world. I'll never forget one of my best memories from being a student at the International School of Lusaka, Zambia, was going out on a safari over a long weekend, much like the one that's coming up for Americans. It's Columbus Day weekend. So we went off up country. It was a group of students, got into these pickup trucks. This is the 1970s in Lusaka, Zambia, so there were no safety rules. They threw 10 kids in the back of each pickup truck in the flatbed, and off we went, about 100 miles into the countryside to go to a national park where there are elephants and lions and wildebeest and all the other big five of the African wild. And I was out there with kids from Europe, from Africa, from Latin America, from South Asia, East Asia, and of course American kids. And one of the memories that has stuck with me throughout my whole life has been how we all got along great together, how we all just reveled in the experience of going off and having this singular opportunity to go out and be in the African bush, to go off on safari, to understand about conservation and wildlife. But the thing that stuck in my head, the thing that never left, the thing that has always remained in there, even though I've been through so many years of experience since then, is as soon as we got out of the trucks after, 3 hours in the back of these pickup trucks, we got into the camp. My biology teacher got us all out of the trucks, Mrs. Handlos, and she said, "All right, guys, those are your tents where you're going to be staying. Get all your things off the truck. Make sure you've got," and then she stopped. And we all wondered why she had stopped. And she looked to her side and she said, "Look, fresh elephant poop." And she plunged right in, right with her hands, pulled it up and handed it right to us in our faces and said, "See, look, this is what elephants eat. See what it does? See how sweet it is?" And she held it right up to our noses. It was a marvelous experience. And I've never forgotten it. And I bet you won't either. The point is, what's the point here? You guys, you students, are privileged to be the children of your parents, privileged to be the students of your teachers, privileged to be classmates with all of the kids in this room, because you have something that your friends back home don't have. You have the opportunity to live overseas. You have the opportunity to go to school with kids from all around the world. Now, St. Thomas Aquinas said, the world is like a big, rich tome. Who knows what a tome is? A tome is a big, fat book. Think of the biggest Harry Potter book and double it. St. Thomas Aquinas said the world is like a rich, thick tome with hundreds and hundreds of pages. And those who stay only at home are only reading from one page. Now look at you guys. Think about your lives. Think about where you've been. Think about what you've seen. Think about the fact that you have friends from Sri Lanka, from India, from Malaysia, from Japan, from Australia, from the UK, from Africa, from wherever. Think about how much that is enriching you right now. And think about what that's going to mean for the future. I'm going to tell you a funny story. I went to the school assembly in this room at 8:45. Sat down with my wife. We were way off in the back. And we're listening to a lady talking about her childhood experience. And this lady, I think, works for the UN here in Sri Lanka. And she was talking about how growing up, she had had a really big problem with her eyes. And she couldn't see very well. And she had had to overcome that disability in order to contribute as an adult, in order to get through school, in order to be productive, in order to serve humanity through the United Nations. And I looked at her name. Her name was up on that screen right there, projected up there. And I thought, that's a very unique name. And I thought, I knew a gal when I was 5 years old in Lusaka, Zambia, who had that name and had eye problems just like that. I thought, what are the chances that that might be that girl? I thought, there's no way. But then something said, just ask her. Just go ask her. So as the auditorium, everybody was filing out of the auditorium, I went up to her and I said, hey, I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Atul Keshup, but I just want to ask you a kind of a funny question. Did you ever live in Lusaka, Zambia? She said, yes. I said, late 70s, early 80s? Yes. And now she's thinking, who the heck are you, buddy? And I said, your parents and my parents were friends. We were classmates together. And you might not remember me, but I remember you because you talked about your eyes and your name. The point I'm making to you guys is the world is tiny, okay? We are 7 billion human beings. And yet the world is very, very small. When I was a kid, if you wanted to call from my home in Lusaka, Zambia, back to my grandmother's house in Newport News, Virginia, you had to call the international operator if the phone line was working. You had to book a call, and the international operator would call you back if and when the circuit was available. And if you wanted to talk to Grandma, to 8,000 miles away, you paid the equivalent today of $25 a minute to talk to Grandma. You guys can't even imagine that world. You guys can't imagine the world where if you want to write to your buddy who left last year, you got to go to the store, buy some some paper and an envelope, go to the post office, buy a stamp, write your letter, mail it to your friend, wait 2 to 3 weeks for the letter to arrive, and then wait 2 to 3 weeks for the letter to come back. You guys don't live in that world. You live in a world where you can reach anyone on the planet, all 7 billion human beings, from your phone, from your computer. When I look at you and I say you're the most privileged kids on the planet, believe me, because you're getting a great education, and you are the United Nations, all of you. What does the United Nations mean? The United Nations was founded, dedicated to the principle that human beings can work together to avoid ever having any more wars. It was founded as a result of World War I and World War II, which killed tens of millions of people and disrupted the entire planet. Now, there is still war on our planet, and there are still human beings that will kill each other for silly reasons. But I'm convinced that if you, having studied together, having learned to talk across cultures, having learned to make friends from different places, having learned to overlook the differences in appearance or language, I'm convinced that if you guys, with the potent capability you have to communicate with anyone all around the world, if you guys, as you grow up, carry in your heart the lessons you've learned here, strength and unity through diversity, cherishing the differences that make us such a diverse and wonderful species, respecting and protecting our planet, seeking to create good and positive outcomes, looking out for each other, practicing the golden rule. If you do that, and you use the awesome power that you hold in your hands to communicate with everybody, I am convinced the world that you will inherit will be a better world than the one we have today. Safer, more peaceful, more prosperous, where everybody can be free and enjoy equal opportunity and can really relish the fact that in their diversity, they contribute to the strength of the planet. So I want you to know that I really respect you guys. You know, you guys are the future. President Obama said in a speech recently that the young people of today will govern the planet tomorrow. They will be responsible for the planet tomorrow. And what you're learning today you may think is fun. You know, school's fun, and learning from your teachers is fun. What I'm here to tell you is, as a guy who was born in Nigeria, had an Indian father and an American mother, who lived in Zambia and Afghanistan and Austria and Lesotho as I was growing up, that if you can learn to talk to people from another culture, if you can bridge whatever differences exist between you and that person, if you can talk it out and figure out how to fix things between you, then you are the key to ensuring that as one human family, we can lead better lives tomorrow. I'm an American diplomat. My job is to help my country advance its interests. My job is also to look out for what is good not only for Americans, but for the whole planet in terms of our happiness, prosperity, safety, security. I do that through the diplomatic service of the United States, the 14,000 of us who work for American diplomacy, because I'm compelled and driven by the desire to make friends and to overcome differences of opinion and to enhance understanding. My background in having lived all around the world has been directly helpful to me every single day that I've been an American diplomat. And I want you to know that of all the kids out there at all the schools all around the world, there are very few that are at international schools, that are studying like you with 40 and 50 different nationalities. And there are very few kids that have your privileges. So y'all should feel very, very happy with what you've got. You should appreciate your parents for bringing you here, your teachers for educating you and imparting wisdom to you. And I challenge you to think about your role in the future. And I thank you very much. Y'all are fantastic. God bless. And Emily, I know you're causing trouble. I just can't see it.
Thank you, Mr. Kessup, for that wonderful speech. Our first performance of this afternoon is an original piece of theater performed by OSC's DP1 drama students, devised from this year's theme of global citizenship.
Once upon a time, there was a scorpion who, upon its journey, came across a deep, wide river. In order to get across this river, the scorpion asked the frog, who was sitting close by, to take him across on his back. The frog, however, was very hesitant because he was afraid of being stung by the scorpion as they made their way across the river. The scorpion argued with the frog, telling them that if he did indeed sting him with the scorpion on the frog's back, they would of course both drown. Considering this, the frog agreed. But halfway across the river, the scorpion did in fact sting the frog, putting both their lives in danger. When the frog asked the scorpion why, the scorpion replied that it was in its nature to do so. This story demonstrates that there are those who will make bad choices, even if they're self-destructive and may harm others. There are people in this world who say it's in their nature, but do they just fear change? As citizens of this world, should it not be a fundamental part of our nature to make this change in order to better the lives of ourselves and others? Are you a scorpion? Or are you a frog? Or are you a bit of both? Are you a citizen of this world? What does it mean to be a citizen of the world? Do you need to be a global citizen? If something does not affect you, why should you let it concern you? What do you do that makes you a global citizen? How does knowing more about the world make you global? Do you care enough to be an active participant? How do you take action? How could you take action if you wanted to? Do you want to take action? What would that action look like? Why should you care about events that don't concern you? Do you ever feel like you live in a bubble? Is there anything wrong with living in a bubble? Don't you all live in a bubble, even if you are informed? Does being informed mean you're a global citizen? Are you concerned at all by global problems? When you watch or read the news, how does it make you feel? Are you being active within political affairs? What's the point of understanding all this if you cannot do anything about it? Or can you do something about it? If you could, what would that be? If you could, why don't you? Do you impose your culture onto others? Do you impose your views on certain issues into your community? The world is huge, with over 200 countries and 7 billion people. Why should your opinion count? What do you matter in the grand scale of things? Does your opinion count? Do you ever say to yourself, "Thank goodness I don't live there"? Do you worry about the future generations? Why should you need to care about what happens when in a number of years you will no longer exist? Do you care that people are starving to death? Do you care that animals are dying for their fur? What is your carbon footprint? Do you know what this means? Do you recycle? Does recycling make you a global citizen or just someone who recycles? Do you wish you could just enjoy your youth and be a global citizen later on in life? Why should the youth of today be concerned with being a global citizen? Is it in your nature to care only about your own problems? Is caring about others in your nature? Do you feel proud when you help people? Are you helping people to just feel better about yourself? Don't you think that if you don't do anything now, global issues are just going to affect the whole world later? Will you feel responsible then? Do you feel guilty for not taking action against global issues? Care about things that only affect others? Would you take further action if global issues affected people you know? You could take action, but if others don't, then why should you? Is reading the news hypocritical if you do not take action? Is it enough to just know and share? Or should you act now and speak out? Is it truly selfless to be a global citizen? Can you, as an individual, really make an impact? Are there any disadvantages of being a global citizen? Are there others out there like you who care? Are there others out there like you who don't? Do you do your bit? If not, don't you think you should? You think you should do this sooner rather than later? Can the youth of today make a change?
Thank you, DP1. That was wonderful.
Now we have a presentation by the first group of MYP5 on the theme of youth and globalization.
%25 of the world's youth are between the ages of 10 and 24.
That's over 1.8 billion young people. Therefore, youth plays a central role within social global issues.
The exposure to the recurrence of social global issues throughout history has united and strengthened our youth.
This gave rise to the youth-led revolutions and campaigns such as the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge and the Arab Spring.
It may also hinder the progression of social evolution within individuals and societies.
Overall, we've shown to be a progressing worldwide movement, and it's now under the spotlight more than ever.
Global means to me people and connections around the world. Like all over the world.
Youth empowerment is giving the youth a chance to speak their ideas.
Young people trying to take action.
I guess it started because the youth decided that before they became adults, they wanted to have a voice for themselves.
Empowering youth through mass media is actually a good idea. It's a lot of ways for kids to actually express themselves, a chance for them to reach people globally on a global scale.
It can be positive or negative depending on the way people use. A lot of people can gather and discuss things and share their ideas in a large scale. I think it's contributed a lot because anybody now can just get online and say what they feel, and all the times it can really promote change.
If you look back to major social political events, from the Arab Spring to the Ukrainian Revolution, the main form of communication has been mass media. It is energized, it is empowering, and it is actively enabled ordinary citizens to play a constructive part in their own lives within their own country, and the significance cannot be understood.
Things like TED Talks do make a big difference because a lot of students are starting to participate in TED Talks and add more TED Talks, and more innovations are being made by students. The school uses a lot of TED Talks and things like advisory. There's also a TEDx Colombo where different ideas are shared between different communities.
The youth had a big impact on the Arab Spring. It was a youth revolution where the youth overthrew their longtime dictators. The youth used social media to plan rallies and protests in order to try and voice their opinion.
Youth played a central role in sparking protest movements across the Middle East. Also, social media caused problems, because even if people fight for their freedom, this is not a good thing to happen, because that means killing, fighting, and danger for them, and social media supported that.
The youth have played an intrinsic role within the global community through the process in which global ideas have crossed national and transnational boundaries. with global beliefs and emotions becoming shared links connecting youth throughout the world. This has become one of the 21st century's greatest achievements due to the ability of ideas no longer being constrained by factors such as political leadership, for example. Therefore, the youth now have the ability and power to individually voice and participate actively in bringing about change to the world, as witnessed by instances such as the Arab Spring.
It has engendered the spread of education to an easily accessible global digital platform, and this is clearly exemplified through things in our daily lives that we don't think twice about. Model United Nations, Tumblr activism, famous YouTubers voicing their opinions on global issues through their channels, podcast videos, and the list goes on.
Using social media as a platform for delivery of news and highlighting issues has seen the development of youth-endorsed awareness regarding world issues through an intricate system of interconnectivity among the youth through social media, which results in issues gaining awareness and ultimately acquiring some form of action taken, whether it be a global phenomenon such as the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, which thrived on the interactivity presented by the challenge and the rest of the connected world to spread the challenge to different communities. And in order to address and raise awareness about these issues efficiently requires a mutual relationship between the role of the youth in today's world and understanding the power of social media.
An interdependent concept to understand how education and youth empowerment play a role, because the more that education grows, the more that youth empowerment is promoted, and the more that youth empowerment is promoted, the more that education grows.
Yes, there's some words about that, right?
No.
All right. Now again, we welcome the head of school, Mr. Phil Jocelyn, to welcome our next speaker today, UNICEF representative in Sri Lanka.
Thank you. I hope you're enjoying the performances so far. It's nice to see things focused on children. That's one of our main points for today. And along with that theme, I think we are very fortunate to welcome the UNICEF advisor for Sri Lanka. The UNICEF began as the United Nations Children Fund. It began as United Nations International Children's Emergency Fund, and it came around originally established in 1946. It was there to provide emergency food and health care for children in the countries devastated by World War II. Originally with the United Nations Emergency Fund, most UNICEF work is within the field staff with over 190 countries and territories around the world. The main key focus of what this organization does is in support of children around the world that are in dire and difficult circumstances. We're fortunate with Una Macaulay to be able to speak to us a little bit. I'm going to mention this only because I think for you kids that are thinking about universities and colleges, and if you find it interesting the kind of work she does, her initial bachelor's degree was in social science and social research at the University of East London in the UK. Then she went on to get her master's degree in international development at the University of London, UK. That leads directly to the kind of work that she's doing right now. And she began in that area working in various capacities in the Save the Children Alliance, based in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the United Kingdom and Sweden and Cote d'Ivoire. And she specialized in child protection programming and provided advisory services on children welfare services. From there, she moved on to be a consultant, child protection, provided technical advice to various UN agencies and NGOs on child rights and protection. She then took a job with UNICEF back in 2002, as she was the UNICEF child protection consultant in Luanda, Angola, and provided technical expertise on child welfare strategy and its communication approaches. Following that, she worked as the Child Protection Officer, Operation Lifeline in Sudan, based in Nairobi. provided technical support on the development and implementation of the child protection programs in that area of tremendous turmoil. She also went on then to work from 2006 and 2007 with the Chief Child Protection in Juba, Southern Sudan, another troubled area of the world, providing leadership in developing, implementing, and monitoring, evaluating the child protection programs there. Then she went on and worked as a UNICEF representative for Togo, and she was responsible for the overall leadership and development of implementation and monitoring of their country program. She did the same moving on to Panama, where she worked in that area, and now since 2012, we're fortunate to have Una here with us. She's the UNICEF representative for Sri Lanka, responsible for the overall leadership in developing, implementing, monitoring, and evaluating the country program for the development of children. So please, it's my honor to welcome Una to Macaulay to speak to you.
Thank you so much, faculty and children, for your invitation. I'm sure that my CV just sounded quite boring, but I think the US ambassador claimed that he probably has the most interesting job in the world. Sorry to say, it's actually me that has the most interesting job in the world. So what does all of that mean? It means that in my job, what I get to do as the UNICEF representative, and we're talking about the UN, I have a mandate from the UN, from the General Assembly, you saw a picture of it there, from the General Assembly, to support the government of the country that I work in to realize children's rights. And the ambassador said, you are some of the most privileged, lucky children in the world, you are. But all around us, and even among us, there are children who are being abused, there are children who are being hurt, there are children who are being harmed, there are children who are poor, children who don't have clean water to drink, children who don't have quality education. And every single day, it's my privilege to work with the government of this country and other countries to try to ensure that no child is hurt, no child goes hungry, no child doesn't have clean water to drink. And there's no better job than that, especially in a country like Sri Lanka, where there's really an interest in making the country a better place for children. So the CV might have sounded a little dull, but the job is brilliant. And one of the greatest moments in my job is when I come to schools and speak to children. So thank you for having me. I know it's been a long day, and the UN might seem like something very far away, but the ambassador said, you are the UN. And I'm speaking as someone who's employed by the UN. You are the UN. You are today the UN, and you are UN tomorrow. So I want everybody to think about that. I'm not going to be very funny or anything like that, and when Irish people start talking, we talk and we talk and we talk. So I'm not going to talk too much. But we are in a changing world. We're in a very, very, very fast changing world. And that world is changing. It's your world that's changing. It might not feel like it's changing to you, because you as children are able to adapt to change much quicker than we are as grown-ups. But you have the power to make that change positive. You have the power to make this a better world and try to overcome some of the messes that we, the adults, have made in that world. It's your UN, it's your power. I'm just going to talk to you very quickly about some changes in what the world governments are thinking. All of the governments of the world recently came together to try to set new standards and new goals for development in the world. Now that might seem very far away because you want to get out and play and you've got half term coming up and you don't really want to be here. But it's important that you understand what your governments, the 40 governments represented here, are agreeing. So I'm just going to show you a very short 4-minute video which is about what those goals are. Try to concentrate, because I'm going to give you a quiz after.
Hello world.
Oops,
How would
sound?
you like to be changed? How can we even ask this?
Oops.
There are so many problems. No one would say the same thing.
Can we get this out? I'm going to go back to the beginning. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Hello world, how would you like to be changed? How can we even ask this? There are so many problems. No one would say the same thing. This is Fernando. He is a little orphan boy from Brazil who lives in slum. He would change the world by making sure everyone has electricity. But his big request is that he be given
the most beneficent, the most merciful. Before I start, I would like this environment to be a bit quiet and that people pay full attention to what the youth is asking here. Dear sisters and brothers, world leader sitting there, look up because the future generation is raising their voice. Today, we are 193 young people representing billions more. Each lantern we hold represents the hope we have for our future because of the commitments you have made to the global goals.
And what I love most about that is Malala telling the UN to be quiet and listen to her. Okay, so there are these goals. There are 17 of them. It's a lot of goals. Very difficult to fulfill all that goals, but each of us has a responsibility to those goals. I'm not going to go through this PowerPoint presentation of what all those goals are, but what's important about them and what changes in what the world has promised to do is that we are saying people and the planet all have rights, and we have to save this planet and all of its biodiversity for you and your children and your grandchildren, and we have to work together as people and the planet to make the world a prosperous, happy and peaceful place. I'm going to make a challenge to your school. I'm going to challenge you and your teachers and your friends and your parents to think of projects, I'll leave this behind, think of projects that you can do to contribute to these sustainable goals. And after Christmas, when you're all back from holidays, we'll come back to the school and perhaps see if any of you have thought of projects, and then we'll sit with your teachers and see how perhaps UNICEF can help you to realize those projects in your spare time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. And thank you for the power that you are going to use for yourselves and for other children who are the present and the future of this wonderful world.
Now, the next MYP 5 group will present their work for humanities.
Place and time your grandparents were?
When they tell you a story about their childhood.
Yeah, I do think about it all the time. But what do you mean?
No, I mean everything was different for them. Their communication, their schooling, and even the choices they had. At school, they can't even think out of the box, no exploration, but they don't get opinions and facts when learning.
But how do you know all of this?
Well, I'm guessing, but from what I've heard from my grandparents, it seems like it. That time, they thought settled around work and school. They didn't have time to explore or anything like that. I mean, for them, communication would have been a fantasy. taking a step on the moon was a fairy tale. But look at Neil Armstrong, look at us now. Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, without these people we'd be nowhere. Just imagine what we do without them. And these people learn from thinking out the box and to boldly go where no man has gone before. I mean, without them, I don't know where we'd be. And because of them nowadays, school is all about exploration and learning. And the youth today, because of them, has broken so many boundaries. And just think about what we can do in the future with these values that we learn from them.
It's got a point, but let's just think about the future. That's what happened in the past. It's got to be like have freedom of choice. In about 20 to 40 years, we're going to be the ones in charge. We're going to literally have the world in our hands. Everything will revolve around us and our beliefs. Whole cultures will potentially be impacted through our decisions. And I don't really think people are going to look at that. We have such a huge influence on our elders and authority because they recognize that we will have the responsibility in years to come. Look at all the recent changes and parades, especially the gay pride parade and the annual youth bills, where without the youth, these motions will have passed. And gradually, over the years, youth has become truly an important part of the community. It has become a powerful weapon that will pave the way to a more global future.
This is a very valid point. I mean, we have been part of the Clean Water Campaign and the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. But other than raising awareness, do you think we can actually impact the world? Do you think we have a large enough influence to actually make a change in the world?
Yes, of course we can. We have already done so much at this young age. Just imagine what we'll be able to do.
How much more influence do we need to improve people? I mean, we already have taken frequent names, but how do you suggest what will influence? How can we imply that we aren't pigs?
We simply gain more experience by doing these campaigns, and youth is the strongest power out there. So we already have experience by doing these campaigns.
Wow, man, that's really exciting. Yeah, let's go. Here we can see that even though our grandparents were different, our ancestors were different, they would not talk to other people from different countries, from different cultures. Today we see that their children, their grandchildren, us, the youth today, has become such a diverse group that we talk to people from all over the world. And this has made us a global village that will help shape the future as a whole.
Thank you. And now, grade 7 student Shreya Ramesh will be performing a Indian Bollywood dance.
Yeah. Show me your style. Show me your style. Show me your style. Show me your style. कभी कभी सांसें क्यों जून जैसी हवा चली वो मसाजने शाम से ये बदन कभी कभी आईने से मैं कहूँ तुम्हारे पास बाहों में बसा ले आंख पर हाँ मैं रही ना जाऊँ अपने ही जिस्मों पे काबू राहों में जो होने लगी है करा दिया कमर पे तू रख ले बैठ के तू मेरे साथ हम सब करते हैं just like that champion कमर पे तू रख ले बैठ के तू मेरे साथ मेरी बारिशों में भीगने मुझिया करे बाहों में भरे यार को रात भर कभी कभी सामने वो बैठ के देखता रहे प्यार से कहे हमसे ना प्यार कर हाँ सुबह सुबह दर्दों से बातें को बदल के मेरी तरह आँखों में जो तुम्हारी
Thank you for that amazing arts interlude. Now, as you all know, and in keeping with its mission statement, OSC sponsors contributes to the local community by sponsoring Colombo Model United Nations. Now, to celebrate the start of the United Nations season and United Nations Day, we have a video produced by Shlok Argwal and Muhammad Akabali about Colombo-operated Model United Nations and our view on global youth. To be a global citizen means that you have a level of awareness and international savvy, and that you're aware of what's going around you, not just in your own community, but in other communities and in other countries. And it means having a level of understanding and empathy, even if you yourself are not in the positions that you're hearing about other people being in.
To be a global citizen means to be open-minded and aware about the situations around us, since right now is the time we have to change the future.
The role of youth in the global community, in certain aspects it's minimalist. However, in aspects like the student-led revolutions in the Middle East, those were critical to portraying what the youth can do. And for examples in history, like when Cambodia was ruled by the Khmer Rouge, that was essentially a youth-led movement.
As a whole school, probably a positive impact on the world would be nice. But mainly one that is nurturing to future generations, to themselves, and the environment as a whole.
Youth can do things. However, it can be utilized for both negative and positives.
Youth are the next generation. Already we make up a majority of the voters in democratic countries and the majority of the activists and revolutionaries that we hear about around the world. One day it's going to be us, the youth, who are in charge. And the role we play today is preparing ourselves and preparing the world for a future in which we lead. Thank you for that wonderful video in which I was heavily featured.
Youth consider music a universal language, and to celebrate this, OSC's very own Sweet Chains Band will now perform.
Hey guys, my name's Ahnaf, that's Yaman, Taha, Anya, and Charlie, and together we're Sweet Chains. Today we're going to play a song by Bob Marley. It's called Jamming, and the reason we chose to do this song is because it talks about everybody playing music in harmony and peace, and everyone coming together to play music. All right, hope you guys like this one. We're going to start now. Alright, we're jamming. I wanna jam it with you. We're jamming, jamming, and I hope you like jamming too. Ain't no rules, ain't no vow, we can do it anyhow. I and I will see you through. 'Cause every day we pay the price with a little sacrifice. Jamming till the jam is through. We're jamming. We're jamming in the name of the Lord. We're jamming, and I hope this jam is gonna last. No bullet can stop us now. We neither beg nor we will bow. Neither can be bought nor sold. We all defend the right. Judge, your children must unite. Your life is worth much more than gold. We're jamming,
Jamming, jamming, jamming.
I hope you like jamming too. Jamming,
jamming.
We're jamming in the name of the Lord. Holy Mount Zion, Holy Mount Zion. Just sit in the Mount Zion and rules of creation, yeah, well. Jamming, pop you all, jamming. Jamming too, jamming, and we're jamming in the name of the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you for that amazing performance. I think we all feel a little bit more invigorated now as we go into the last leg of our assembly. Our next performance, or, well, feature, is the last video from the Grade 10 Humanities Project. Please enjoy.
global means with the whole world.
Like, especially when you learn in science, like one world essay, you're talking about a local issue which is connected to global issues, right? Like acid rain or
when you say the word global, I think of the interconnectedness of things. Of people, a global citizen is somebody who understands that their country is not an island.
Where there's a lack of boundaries or cultures or nationalities, kind of holistic understanding of humankind.
To me, global means worldwide. And when we talk about global citizen, we're talking about networks of people connected all over the world.
So to me, global means music is a universal language.
Okay, global to me means understanding different cultures and having empathy for different people from different parts of the world.
Indicates someone that is part of the larger world beyond just their locality. So maybe part of their whole country and beyond, neighboring countries, even someplace that is on the other side of the world, but someone that's aware that they are part of a much larger system than just their small area.
Youth empowerment is a structural and cultural process where young people gain the ability, authority, and agency to make decisions and implement change in their own lives. This can be done by social media, as they have the ability to research about world issues and post their
One of the
opinions.
main apps that is very common and is very used is Facebook as a communication media. Almost everyone in this school has a Facebook account with an average of more than 200 friends. People also use Twitter to spread short news and issues around the world instantly. Many people can view it in a few hours, and which spreads the news quicker. Some people also use Instagram to post pictures about events or places they've been to. Some of the account owners are news channels such as Breaking News or BBC, which post pictures of recent events. A few months back, posting pictures of the Nepal earthquake was very common to spread the damages of the disaster. Last but not the least, YouTube has also been very useful to have a look at. It has many tutorials about everything, such as from makeup tutorial to how to use Excel. You can find almost anything online, which makes us more global.
Or you're just watching some random videos.
I'm watching this video about the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge that took place a few days ago.
What is ALS?
The ALS Ice Bucket Challenge involves dumping a bucket of ice water on someone's head to promote awareness of the disease amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and encourage donations to research.
I want to see that.
Here.
I entered the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge from Garfield Booker Taylor. I nominated Darren Barber, Kevin Peterson, Solomon Ben. You have 24 hours.
Together on a platform of entwining. Now a world of 200 countries and 7 billion people are closer digitally through communication than they had been at any point in history before, and social media has revolutionized this. Social media has been at the forefront of many social political events that have gripped this century, from the Arab Spring to its aftermath, the Civil War, to the Ukrainian revolutions. Social media has connected people together. Social media has challenged political institutions and enabled the public masses to find their voice in becoming one as a people.
Thank you, Grade 10, for that wonderful collection of work. And last but not least, our final performance is from OSC's Mother Tongue Service Group.
Hi. We are from the Overseas Mother Tongue Service Group. The purpose of our service is to raise awareness to the indigenous languages that it's being forgotten and to maintain the languages, our own mother tongue. And in order to do this, we go to the primary every Thursday and then we teach our own languages as well as help them maintain their own language. So Karthik is gonna ask each one of us what we think about language and how it's important to empower youth.
Hi Ranjan, what does language mean to you?
Language gives us identity. Without language, we will be left behind. Our generation can use language to extend their boundaries. And language is not just English, Hindi, or any Sinhala. It's a way to communicate with people, even computers and animals.
Thank you. Hi Jivon, what does language mean to you?
I think language helps us make relationship with each other, and it is also an expression of our culture. For instance, Korea has many words that other countries don't have. Language bonds generations, and I think we can be proud of ourselves. It feels more comfortable and friendly when we use our mother tongues, I think.
I also think language is important because it's constantly changing and like it's unique to our generation. Like the language our generation use will be different from the generations before. So I think to us language is more significant. So that's it.
Today we have seen a remarkable body of work from the OSC student body, and we thank you all for witnessing it. To round off this year's UN Day Assembly, we invite Secondary Principal Eileen Niederman to the stage to give a vote of thanks.
It's been a great day. I know you're all very tired. I hope you've had a lot of good snacks today so that we're ready to embark on the next part of our afternoon, and which is the beginning of our holiday. I'd like to start off by thanking Ambassador Keshup. He slipped out, so please convey our thanks to him for sharing his personal experience as an international school student and putting that perspective on our roles as teachers and also our roles as students. Ms. Macaulay, please thank you very much for your words about the UN and I think they're called Sustainable Development Goals. And so we're learning about those new goals, and that's a great step for us too. I think there's many other thanks to be given as well. I'll be very brief. I think we have two excellent MCs, Ms. Ella Linkwalker, right? Amanda Marwancha. I think also Nathan was involved as well. All the student leaders that were involved in the different debates and sessions around the classrooms, the teachers that were helping out in those debates as well. Thank you very much. We have some other really important people that helped us today. First of all, our parents who fed us and also had some displays from all the different countries that we represent, reminding us of that part of our culture, which is a really great way to share cultures through food and different cultural representations and decorations. And then I think that it was a challenging day with the rain, and we had a lot of support from the maintenance and grounds crew, so maybe give them a bit of a round of applause. We were thinking about offering free shoe polishing after the event. Oh, no, actually not. You have to wash your own shoes. My biggest vote of thanks goes out to Miss Jasmine Bhattacharjee for arranging today's event. She's worked very hard on this. I'd like to close now, but I'd like to first remind you that today is the end of our first quarter of reporting. And so you will have your reports this afternoon on ManageBack. You need to give me about 2 hours to get that done. So please check in, okay? And then we have conferences afterwards. Another announcement. Come. I'm done.
All right. I know that you want more than anything to get out of here. There's just a few more things. Firstly, we'd like to now invite our chief guest, Mr. Jocelyn, Ms. Niederman, Mr. Lockwood, and Mr. Mueller to go to the conference room in the head of school office for some refreshments and a final goodbye. Not like totally final, just the end of today. And then there, I believe, is some athletic announcements before I can dismiss you.
Okay, it's almost time for a holiday. But before we go, I'm glad there's lots of currency and guys some news. Mr. Jocelyn doesn't quite know the news yet, and he's going to go and rush off and check his email to make sure I'm not